Hey everyone, welcome to the video. I am riding today on the Sammamish River Trail and I'm trying out some new stuff. So, first thing I've got going on is I got the GoPro Max, and on your left, the GoPro Max is gonna allow me to shoot in 360 degrees. It's a 360 camera, which gives me this impossible floating drone shot out in front of the bike that you see right now. And there are other 360 cameras. In fact, I have various other 360 cameras, specifically from Insta360. The reason I keep going back to GoPro Max, though, is because GoPro Max can record longer than 30 minutes, or rather longer than 29 minutes, without having a gap in the file. The way they do is they record they record 4 gigabyte files, and then they break and start a new 4 gigabyte file. And they're able to do this seamlessly, so when you put all of those into your editor, they seamlessly line up perfectly with no gaps, no cuts, no breaks, and it's really nice. And Insta360 can just keep on recording and recording, but every 29 minutes there's a gap, because what it does is record one big file, and then when the file is done, it stops, processes the file, and then starts recording. So there ends up being a gap in the file. What I'm gonna want to do on this ride, I also brought my VR gear, and I brought a couple of those other 360 cameras. The Insta360 1RS 1-inch 360 edition. I have 2 of those, and I'm gonna put them side by side to record some VR 180. And I might stop up here pretty soon, because there's a nice little, I gotta find a really nice vantage point to get some nice VR shots along the trail here. So I brought some of that stuff, but the reason I have the GoPro Max on here is because this bike ride is likely going to be longer than a half an hour, and it'll just keep recording and recording. On your left. So yeah, it can just keep recording and recording. And if I plug in a power source, it can record indefinitely. Another thing that I have going on is I got a new microphone. It's the Tascam DR-10L Pro. I think DR-10L Pro. It's got 32-bit float recording. That's the feature I really wanted. A lot of people say it's not necessary, but like, the reason I got 32-bit float, that I really like 32-bit float, is that it basically records the entire dynamic range of the camera, or of the microphone. I got a bike coming up on me. Hey, that's what I'm riding. Yeah, it's got, it can record the entire dynamic range of the microphone as one file. There are other cameras that can split between a high gain and a low gain input, and a lot of people say 32-bit float isn't necessary if you just set your gain settings right, forehead. But I've messed them up enough times in the past and ended up with unusable audio that I just want the peace of mind. I want to just put it in my pocket, start it, then put it in my pocket, and then be done with it. If you watch my other bike vlog, like my most recent bike vlog, I think it's like getting lost in Seattle, you'll be able to hear the difference in the microphone. in that like all my levels were too hot and I couldn't fix them. So this microphone, I should be able to speak really loud and really quietly. Doggies. And have everything not peak. Even if it peaks in post, I'll be able to lower it so that it's not peaking anymore. And if I'm too quiet, I can just boost it so you can hear me still as well. But yeah, I don't have to be concerned with peaking the microphone. So that's going to be really nice. And yeah, I'm really excited about that. So, got my VR gear on my back basket. The other thing I have going on is new sunglasses. These are the Oho Sunrise sunglasses. Because, like, so, smart glasses. I had been eyeing a little bit the Meta Raycon sunglasses that allow you to make Bluetooth phone calls and listen to music and this and that. But they're like $300 or maybe more. I don't know. I think they're $300. And I'm like, yeah, that's a bit much. So I found these Oho Sunrise sunglasses that don't have a camera built in and don't have a lot of the features, but it does have Bluetooth and speakers and a microphone, so I can make Bluetooth phone calls connected to my phone that sounds solid while I'm riding my bike. And that's basically what I wanted from... Ooh, this looks like a nice... Well... Yeah, I'll keep riding for now. But yeah, I'm going to want to get some VR shots. But I want to find like a really nice vista. But yeah, I can make Bluetooth phone calls and take Bluetooth phone calls while I'm riding, and they sound good while I'm riding, straight through the sunglasses. And these, instead of $300, they were like $35. Yeah, because I got them on sale. They're usually like 40 or maybe 50, but I got them for 35. So that's good. I'll take $35 sunglasses that can do Bluetooth calling. Absolutely. And so VR 180. Right now I'm using two what my VR 180 rig is looking like right now is two Insta360 two Insta360 1RS 1-inch 360 editions side by side. I had to press record on both of them and then take them into post and sync them up in post as best I can and hope that the frames both started at the same time. Otherwise there's gonna be a little bit of difference from the left eye to the right eye for the action taking place. And what I'm gonna end up doing is taking one of my lenses and dismantling it and putting it into a 3D printed housing in a VR 180 setup side by side, 65 millimeters lenses distance for the IPD. And then I'll be able to have VR 180 from just one camera body that'll record everything in unison. It'll have the white balance will all match perfectly. The cameras will be perfectly in sync because it's just the one camera body. It'll be able to do adjustments on the fly. It'll be able to do time lapses more effectively and stuff. Like some of the problems with the having two separate cameras side by side for VR 180, particularly with the Insta360 cameras, like setting aside the 10-second gap every 29 minutes for recording video, Insta360 doesn't know how to do time lapses. And here's what I mean. On a DSLR, if you set your camera to interval mode and you set like a 10-second interval, that means that when you press start and let's say you're doing a 1-second exposure, okay? That means that your exposure is going to start. 1 second will elapse. The exposure will stop. 9 more seconds will take place. And then a new exposure, exactly 10 seconds from the start of the previous exposure, will happen. So that every exposure, every photo is spaced exactly 10 seconds apart from the start of the file. So 10 seconds apart from the start of each photo. The way the Insta360 does it, which is really dumb, is that if you set a 1 second exposure and a 10-second interval, and you start it, it's going to do 1 second, it'll start the exposure, 1 second later it'll stop the exposure, and then it'll process the image for an unknown amount of time, and then it'll count 10 seconds, and then it'll start the next exposure, 1 second later, stop the exposure, and then process the photo for an unknown amount of time, and then wait 10 seconds. You see the problem with this? You end up with 11 and some change seconds between each photo. And the biggest problem with this, I wouldn't even necessarily mind so much if it were perfectly consistent, exactly 10 seconds in between each. You know, it starts after the photo instead of before. Fine, whatever. But that unknown interval of it processing the file is completely what ruins it for VR 180 time lapses on 2 separate cameras, because one camera, like the left eye, will take a photo and the right eye takes a photo. Let's say you get them perfect in unison, you press it at exactly the same time. They'll take the photo, they'll stop taking the photo, and then they'll process. And if one processes, and it absolutely guaranteed one is going to process slightly differently than the other time-wise, and then that 10-second interval. So the next photos will be slightly off. And over the course of several hundred photos in a time lapse, you're going to be way off at the end. They're not even going to be anywhere in sync. That little bit of time processing differences will add up and completely desync and destroy your VR 180 time lapse. So the only way to do it really effectively, unfortunately, is to basically record it as a video. So you get all the video 30 frames a second. Problem with that, like, you're not taking advantage of the full potential of the cameras, because they can take stills that are higher resolution than the videos. So you can get higher quality, higher resolution time lapses than you can video. So for the Insta360 1RS 1-inch 360 edition cameras that I'm using, with time lapses, with raw photos, I should be able to get something that will like look amazing even on the Apple Vision Pro, because of the nice higher resolution. They're really okay. In the middle, okay. So yeah, I should be able to get some nice high quality time lapses, but I can't with 2 cameras. So yeah, having one lens as a 360 lens and one lens as a VR 180 dedicated lens is going to be ideal for me. One benefit of having 2 separate cameras record is that you can space the IPD as far or as close as you need. I mean, you can't get like super close for like super macro, unfortunately, necessarily, depending on the lenses. But you can put them as far apart as you want. So if you're like in a skyscraper and you want to get like a miniature effect looking over a city and have everything in view, kind of like you're looking down in a miniature, you can space the lenses apart. And that's a really cool, effective trick and a way to shoot that scene. With a dedicated lens, you cannot. But since I'll have two cameras still, I can still have the VR-180 lens on one camera and the 360 lens on the other, and I can still do the two separate cameras spaced apart trick if I want to. Yeah, since I'll still have two cameras, I'll still have one 360 lens and one VR-180 lens. But for the vast majority of shooting and vlogging and stuff, I'll be able to record VR-180 with one lens, with one body. I can do time lapses with full photo resolutions. I can have full auto that syncs with itself, and all of that should be amazing because I'll have that VR-180 lens in one body. So now, the reason I have to do all that is because Insta360 still has not, 4 years later, released their VR-180 mod for the 1R system and now 1RS system. When the 1R first came out, they had coming soon a VR-180 mod for the 1R system. That never came out. It's 4 years later. It's 4 years later, and that never came out. People are still waiting. Like 2 years after they announced it, people were wondering if it was ever going to come out. What on earth? And like on Reddit, Insta360 was saying, oh yeah, eventually, but we're trying to make the best product possible. 2 years now after that, there's still no signs of it ever coming out. So I'm just going to take matters into my own hand and modify one of my 1-inch 360 edition lenses to be VR-180. Because Insta360 apparently can't stink and get their act together and just release a stinking product. People want it. I want it. Yeah, so unfortunately that's the situation that, and I'm going to have to mod my own and 3D print, so I'm going to be having to buy a 3D printer because everyone I know who has a 3D printer is basically printing around the clock so I can never get printer time. Which makes sense. Prints take a really long time, and I come in and be like, hey, can you print a thing for me? That might take several hours out of their printing, and then might not fit quite right. It's going to have prototyping and stuff. People all have already made the mod that I'm going to be doing. So I'm not going to be starting from scratch as far as that goes. But it's still going to be a bit of a project. And another thing I want to 3D print, is a mount that can put two 1R with the 360 mods side by side, full camera, side by side in one enclosure, 65 millimeter IPD distance. Well, that's redundant. IPD, interpupillary distance. So yeah, IPD, 65 millimeter IPD. And the reason why I also want to do that, because I also have two 1R cameras, and those are waterproof. So if I put two of them in an enclosure and record and just deal with the potential differences in video start times, sync them in post later, and all that, I can get some waterproof VR-180 shots. And that's going to be really good because my wife and I, coming up later this year, are going to be going on another Disney cruise. And I would absolutely love to be able to vlog the entire thing in VR-180. Proper VR-180. And I also got an Insta360 Flow gimbal stabilizer because one of the people who have done the 180 modification also made an adapter for connecting to that gimbal. The gimbal is really small and it folds up on itself, so I can carry it around in my pocket and just pull it out and use a gimbal for vlogging VR-180 whenever I want, whenever I need to. That's kind of the idea. I want to make the process of vlogging in VR 180 as streamlined and as low pain as I can, basically, like low maintenance, just quick and easy as I can. Otherwise, I'm not gonna bother. If something's too cumbersome, then I might be like, I don't want to bother right now, and then I don't get the shot and I don't get the vlog, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to I should pedal some more. I'm getting cold. Warm myself up with pedaling. So yeah, I want to be able to vlog easily and effectively in VR 180 of high quality, with both with time lapses and with waterproof as well, and all of that for the upcoming Disney cruise later this year. And yeah, I'm making progress. I'm really enjoying getting the logistics of everything figured out in regard to putting this system together, being able to do this coming up. But yeah, I realize I'm probably going to need to buy my own 3D printer for this project. Let's see. Ooh, this looks like a nice little view here. I don't know how far I should go, and then maybe, well, this does look really nice. Maybe, hey, you'll be able to see what it is I set up and have going already. I got this monopod. I need somewhere stable to set it. It's not on the path because I don't want it to get knocked over. I mean, in the gravel, maybe, I guess. Should be okay. The wind is freaking me out a little. I need to get a weight for the bottom of my monopod. Maybe I'll put my backpack on it for now. Alright, what I've got going on here is I've got the Insta360 Flow stabilizer. Here's my bike with the GoPro Max on it. Got my VR 180 rig here. Still figuring out how to use this this stabilizer effectively. Mad Max lens mod. It's gonna be those. What are they called? Heat sinks. Heat sinks on the cameras. It's gonna allow them to keep recording without overheating. So I've recorded some video now. And I also want to try out the interval setting with photos with the two cameras, because I was talking about it earlier and I want to see if it's as bad as I suspect it will be. There's a little trick with trying to sync these up, but it doesn't really work. If you turn on the voice control and say start recording and stop recording, then you can get them to start at the same command and stop at the same command. But each camera takes a different amount of time to process, so it's worthless for actually getting them perfectly in sync with one another. Alright, for a time lapse, I'm going to try the trick. Alright, let's check on the sync of these. Yeah, it looks like 44 and 45 in, and they're basically exactly one out of sync. I used voice control to start them, and they're basically exactly one out of sync. It's just not consistent. Like 48, that's like if 24 frames a second, that's 2 seconds of time-lapse footage, and it's already completely worthless. That is why I cannot use the stills time-lapse mode intervals. Insta360, get your act together. Okay, off we go again. As you could see, photo mode wasn't entirely the greatest, as it quickly went out of sync. Less than 2 seconds of time-lapse footage and it was already an entire photo out of sync, even though I used the voice command to start them as close as I possibly could. Yeah, completely worthless. Come on, Insta360, do better. This is not what standard cameras do. That's not how standard cameras function. And the gap, the 10-second gap every 29 minutes. Insta360, do better. That's not what action cameras do. It's not what cameras do. You cannot claim continuous recording if it stops mandatorily every 29 minutes for 10 seconds. Yeah. So like recording VR 180 with two cameras, you got two options. You can start them right at the same time and then deal with a missing 10 seconds every 29 minutes. Or you can taper them like 15 seconds apart, 10-15 seconds apart, so that the 10-second gap will be covered by either one or the other camera in at least flat 180. But with that, you'll get at least 20 seconds, if not closer to 25 or 30 seconds, of unusable non-VR 180 3D footage. You'll have no gap in coverage, but it'll look weird if you're trying to use any of that footage in a VR 180 manner. So maybe if you're just only concerned about coverage, it could be worthwhile. But if you're specifically trying to do VR 180, I don't know which one is better. Probably having a 10-second gap every 29 minutes. That way I only miss 10, 11, maybe 12 seconds, depending on the gap, depending on the file sync or the video sync. But yeah, the Mad Max mod to prevent overheating means that I can just have the cameras going indefinitely. Because I've got lots of battery packs, I can just keep hot swapping and they can just keep going and going and going. I have multiple times recorded both of them side by side for over 3 hours for the Insta360 1RS 1-inch 360 editions for VR 180. And I only stopped them because either I ran out of battery and didn't swap out to a new battery, or I was done with the shot, done with the test. So, yeah. But as far as time lapse, two separate cameras, your only option is kind of video, and then deal with a 10-second gap. 10-second gap isn't as bad, especially if you speed it up fast enough that the gap isn't really going to be necessarily noticeable. You can edit it to be pretty okay, probably. With that said, yeah, another thing. With that said, another benefit of recording video is, like, when I had my monopod going, there was some wind and it started shaking a little bit. With photos, you don't get the stabilization of the 360 cameras, like with interval photos. So with video, you do get the stabilization, so I can actually stabilize that pretty effectively in post. Even though it was wobbling a little bit, it never really shifted significantly left or right, so the eyes both remained level. They didn't really go like that so much. And as long as they remain level to one another, like with the horizon and stuff, then you should be able to stabilize for the up and down movement, which is mainly what was coming from the wind. So yeah, I think those time lapses will come out pretty well, and at least I'll get some nice high resolution VR 180 3D photos out of the beginning of the time lapse, at least, if not a full time lapse, because a full time lapse isn't going to happen with the photo mode. Oh yeah, and I think we've already passed it, or maybe this is it just on the left over here. That could be it. I don't remember exactly, or maybe it's coming up here, but somewhere along this river is the Freefly Movi company. Freefly, the company that makes the oh my gosh, this wind. The company that makes the Movi gimbals, the professional Freefly Movi gimbals. That company is somewhere around here. And I actually have a Freefly Movi M5 that I bought several years ago, with the thought of, you know, I can use it here and there, and then when I'm ready to sell it, I should be able to get my money back pretty much, because they hold their value pretty well. But then Freefly released the Movi Pro, which does all the different lightweight and heavyweight cameras, and that became the new standard. And the M5, the M10, the M15, all of those became basically obsolete overnight. So I'd be lucky to get a quarter of what I paid for it back from selling it. So I still have it, but I never really use it. It's so big and cumbersome that I can't really take it on vacation. I can't really, like, oh my gosh, I just got beaten in the head by like a bee or something flying. I don't think I got stung. But yeah, the Freefly Movi I don't really use because it's just too big and cumbersome for what I usually shoot with. I have used it in professional settings in the past, but yeah, I don't really think I need it anymore. I haven't used it in a while. Especially since all the gear that I did use it with is kind of hooked up into Twitch streaming, my Twitch streaming setup right now, because I got a face cam, a wide cam, and a top cam, and those are the three cameras I would have used with the Movi. I think I'm gonna turn around because we're getting to the point of this trail where it's gonna curve around to the left and kind of go into some other areas. I can go a little further. Also, battery on this GoPro is probably not going to last terribly longer. But yeah, I mean, I'm not too far off from Kenmore Camera right now, where I got my monopod, so I mean, it's still a bit of a ways up there. But yeah, I'm going to turn around now and go back along the nice Sammamish River Trail. I don't think I've ever taken that path. Let's see what's over there at some point. Unless that is the path I usually take. I don't know. I have no idea. See a bicyclist coming up on my left. That guy said on your left when he was already further ahead of me than I was. I mean, further ahead of me than I was. He was already passing and out in front of me when he said on your left. But then that lady dinged with enough time to let me know that she was about to pass instead of was already passed for the most part. Not a big deal. I already saw them coming because of my side mirror. I need to pedal more. I'm not getting much exercise. Which is part of the benefit of riding a bicycle. Exercise. This is a very nice looking trail. Very nice scenery. So what else about VR180? I'm gonna have that modification done. I'm gonna have to do it myself because there are no professional services that I've been able to find that can do that, or that are willing to do that. But yeah. I got a case for my cameras and my gear that has the pluckable foam, so I have like customized little slots for everything, which is really nice. But yeah, the GoPro Max, I really appreciate that they can record, or that it can record indefinitely. Like, especially if I wanted to, I could pop out the battery, plug in a USB cord, so it's attached to a battery, and not having a battery in there is actually like significantly increases the time that the camera will go without overheating, even without taping with thermal tape heat sinks to the outside, which is what the Mad Max mod is. Mad Max mod is super useful, but it shouldn't be necessary. So yeah, Insta360. I really like their cameras, and they can do some amazing things. But my gosh, do they get some basic fundamentals so terribly wrong, which makes it really frustrating to use. They would be so much more versatile if only they would have some basic common sense camera principles applied to their line. And I don't see any reason why it couldn't even just be like a firmware update either. they should be able to redesign the thing so that like they keep the gyro data in one file, or even across multiple files to correspond to the multiple files they're breaking these into. But like, break the files sooner and like more consistently so that it doesn't need extra processing to have gaps. There's no need for it. Unless the cameras are incapable. I don't know though. Yeah. It's a basic functionality that is necessary. It is needed. There's some strong wind right now. That'll be, yeah, we'll see how it sounds with the lens. Okay, I'm gonna get around this person. In fact, I might want to go faster on the way back because I don't know how much battery I have left. When I started, it was 81% battery. When I stopped, it was 42% battery. So who knows now what it's at. Yeah, it's a nice day today. Finally starting to have some nice days consistently. Seeing as it is April 2nd, 2024. As of recording this. Oh yeah, another thing I want to be able to do, so with, like, along with the lens modification for the VR180, for the 1RS, 1-inch 360 edition, what a cumbersome name. Anyway, I got two 1Rs, and I want to make a 3D printed mount that I can have both of those side by side for VR180. And if I do it in such a way that it is invisible to like a selfie stick, like it all stays within the stitch line and everything, then I should be able to get away with invisible selfie stick VR180. And like, so I don't have to have the camera straight facing me. I can have it at an angle, and then I can have it reframed and stabilized in post as long as the lenses stay level with one another and one doesn't go higher or lower than the other. Then that should be stabilizable and invisible selfie stickable for VR180. And I've done a little bit of testing with it, but the Mad Max lens mod kind of gets in the way. So I won't really know till I get stuff printed out and really give it a solid try how effective it'll be at that. But if I could have a stabilized VR180 rig on the front of my bike that can record both myself, like facing back toward me, and facing in front of me for VR180 both ways, and also up and down, straight up and straight down also, you can, just an entire 360 in that one plane should be doable. then that would be amazing. That would be amazing for bike riding, and I would love to do that and have that work out for bike vlogs. And because with this much movement, you really need something that's stable and that is stabilized for VR 180. Otherwise, it's going to be nauseating for anyone viewing. And the last thing I want to do is make people nauseous with my content. That's why I'm selling some stuff on eBay, trying to raise some funds to be able to build up a nice little proper solid VR 180 vlogging rig. I've already got the monopod, I've already got the gimbal. The monopod is going to be really nice for walking around. I can just set it down, pop the camera on, and record some stationary VR 180 stuff. And like I got a whole bunch of quick release mounts from AliExpress. So I had I had 4 of the Insta360 quick release mounts. Yeah, here's a story for you. I had 4 of the Insta360 quick release mounts, and then Insta360 went ahead and redesigned it. So now it's got like a locking mechanism and it looks really cool, but they're $40 a piece. And if I upgrade to those, I have to replace the 4 I already have and then buy more. It'll be hundreds and hundreds of dollars to upgrade to that new system, which is absolutely ridiculous because they're $40 now for the new version. Wow, this wind is crazy. This wind is crazy. Dang. But yeah, so I went with Ulanzi because yeah, I need them to be the same. Every single mount, every single thing I would put on the mount, they need to be all the same interchangeable system for them to actually work the way I need them to, obviously. So I went with the Ulanzi Hummingbird line. I was able to find on AliExpress as low as $11.50 per unit. So now I have a whole bunch of those. I think I have like 16 of them. Yeah, it was really useful. Like when I was setting up the VR 180, I got out my monopod, which had one. I connected my side-by-side camera rail onto that, and then each of those had one that I connected the 2 cameras to. So that's 3 quick release plates right there. I got one for this GoPro Max here, because this invisible selfie stick on the front of my bike is semi-permanent. I taped it on. I can untape it if I want to, and I've been thinking about that as well. Like, what do I want to do exactly? Because I don't want to necessarily permanently or semi-permanently dedicate one of my selfie sticks to my bicycle. Like, I used to have like a cheap one, but it kept shifting around and it would collapse on itself while I was riding. That's not great. So I want like a nice quality one, but I don't want it semi-permanently on my bike so that I can't really use it elsewhere without untaping and retaping every time. And I was thinking about it. I might look into getting like one of those flagpole mounts where like you get like this a little small tube that you can like mount onto something. Like people mount it onto like the side of their house, and and then they can put a flag into, like a flagpole into. If I put that on my bike, then I should be able to like wrap a little bit of foam around the base and like snugly shove it in, and maybe like a piece of tape to prevent it from popping out. And then I can like have that be a nice solid permanent attachment to my bike, but I can remove the selfie stick whenever I want to. So if I want to use, for example, the extended battery selfie stick, I can. And that would be ideal for the GoPro Max here. Rather than relying on just one internal battery that I don't even know if it's still recording, if the battery's still going, who knows. In fact, let me let me pull over and see how much battery I still have. Okay, fine. It is still going. 9% battery left. Okay, 9% battery. But if I had the boosted battery base, that I could just have that going for significantly longer. And I did test out the Insta360 boosted battery base, or boosted battery like selfie stick, invisible selfie stick. Does work to charge the and run without a battery the GoPro Max. With that said, it won't give like the recording functionality of like the buttons on the stick itself for starting and stopping recording and whatnot, but I don't need it to. I also picked up an Ulanzi selfie stick battery pack that has two USB ports, a USB-C on one side and a USB-A, USB 3.0 A size on the other side. Two USB-Cs would have been ideal, but oh well. And like the Insta360 battery selfie stick does have two USB-C ports, one on either side, which would have been perfect, except when I plug them into my two Insta360 cameras for VR180, it detects one of them and then shuts off the other side because of all the extra functionality. So I can't even use it for VR180, which is really frustrating and annoying. Frustrating! Yeah. It's really frustrating and annoying. So I had to get a new battery selfie stick that does not extend, so I can actually attach it to another selfie stick if I want to. And I could have and was considering putting it on the front of this for this ride, but decided not to. I didn't want like a super long ride, and I didn't want another potential failure point of having the selfie stick that I just changed out and attached, and then a quick release for the battery base, and then a quick release for the GoPro Max, and then a cord sticking out. I could do that in the future, but also like, since I couldn't control, the other thing is like I have to have a ball head mount on the Ulanzi battery stick because the way that the quick releases work is the base you just screw on until it stops. The little plate though has a screw that you can put on and then screw in and attach at any angle you need to the device that you actually want to mount to the base. But the base itself, I have no control over what angle it's facing once it screws on all the way. The problem with that is the Ulanzi battery handle, two USB ports, one sticking out one side, one sticking out exactly the opposite side. In order for those cords coming out of those two to be invisible to the stitch line for VR180 and stuff, I need them to line up with the quick release base. And so the only way I could, and when I screwed it on, it was like exactly the wrong angle. Not quite exactly, but it was definitely the wrong angle and wouldn't have worked. So I had to put a little ball head mount, like a tiny ball head mounted between that and the quick release base in order to make sure I could line it up properly. Which obviously adds extra difference when you're trying to get something exactly perfectly in line with an invisible selfie stick. So if you're a 360 camera, you need it to be perfectly aligned with the selfie stick, otherwise you'll see the selfie stick. And the more misaligned it is, the more of the selfie stick you'll see. So having a ball head mount, which I guess it's straight, is not ideal. Yeah. And I looked and I couldn't really find anything that is just an adapter that I can twist to make sure it goes on the way I need it to, without also being a ball head mount for some reason. Because, if you want to adjust a little, you need to adjust everything. Like, no. Yeah. So that's the story there as to why I did not use my battery handle on this ride. But that's okay. This is my first field test as far as this new microphone, the I want to say it's the DR-10L Pro. I don't even remember still. I want to say DR-10L Pro, Tascam DR-10L Pro. And I've done a couple of rudimentary tests at home with speaking quietly and shouting into it, and it worked out well enough. But this is my first real world in the field functionality of it. So let's talk about 32-bit float a little bit with the limited battery I have left. So audiophiles, professional audiophiles will say 32-bit float is completely unnecessary. Just learn to dial in your gain settings properly, forehead. But that's not the whole story. Because, you've got some, non-32-bit float recorders that'll do, a high gain file and a low gain file at the same time, so that you can use one or the other, depending on if you peak or not. And the thing is, I've seen people saying, oh, it's unnecessary, and here's the test to prove it. This is just 24-bit recording, and I can whisper really quietly, and then I can have this really loud thing happen. And, I saw someone, I'm not going to name their channel, I don't want to, name and shame, but they had, an angle grinder, a metal angle grinder, going really loudly. What I was saying is, I'm not going to name and shame the channel, but they did a test. I guess I can ride a little slower now. Okay, that's nice. They did a test just to prove the point that you don't need 32-bit float. They used 24-bit recording. They had an angle grinder, the super loud, and then in the same file without changing settings, whispered really quietly and boosted it, and you could hear it really nicely. So the thing is, if 24-bit recording is so good that it can do that, and that you'll never ever need more dynamic range, then why on earth does everyone not record in the lowest gain setting possible? For 24-bit recording, just set it to the lowest gain setting and never be concerned whatsoever about peaking. Because, Because the situation, like, when you bring your audio into post, you're gonna normalize the track. Am I right? Regardless, you're always gonna normalize the track. So whether it's way too quiet to start out or it's pretty close to where you need it to start out, you're gonna normalize it anyway. So having it any level above bare minimum gain would be a bad idea, I would think. If 24-bit recording is so great, why don't you just do that all the time? And then you don't need backup files recording at high gain and low gain. Like, the fact is, there is a reason why audiophiles and professional audio engineers and recorders set their gain levels depending on what they're recording and the levels that they think they'll need. So 32-bit float would be ideal, I would think, as a recording medium. Obviously not as a delivery medium, but as a recording format. Like, you would think it would be perfect for anything in any situation. Because you don't need to fiddle with the gain. You can set things up quick and easy and have it be guaranteed perfect every time. Unless I'm fundamentally misunderstanding something. It seems like a no-brainer. Because, yeah, like, otherwise, 24-bit recording were so perfect, everyone would record at the lowest gain setting to prevent peaking ever, and they can always boost up without bringing up the floor, the noise floor so much. Like, if it was that perfect, that would be the standard, I would think, for field recording. But I'd never heard people ever suggest that as a standard for field recording. They always say, go to figure out what level of the thing you're recording is going to be, and then lower it by X amount so that it gets up there pretty well for recording a good solid bass, but still there's room to prevent peaking. I mean, no! If it's so perfect, set it to the bare minimum gain and boost it all anyway. But that's not what people do, and so I've got to assume that's not a best practice. So 32-bit float wins, in my opinion, all the way. Yep, 32-bit float. It's the ideal. I don't understand. Like, people say, oh, but I already have my workflows dialed in. Well, that's not an excuse to change to something that is objectively better. Oh, and people say, oh, it's not objectively better since I can get just as good results. But the thing is, just about guaranteeing perfect audio in just about every setting versus actually guaranteeing perfect audio in every single setting, like, which one's better there? Obviously, absolutely guaranteeing in every single setting is better than just about for both. So 32-bit float wins. It's the future as far as I'm concerned. And once it becomes a standard, hopefully more devices will have, like, be designed specifically with 32-bit float recording in mind and have better dynamic range and everything and all that. And it'll be the new standard, and it'll be an easier workflow. Even if it's marginally easy, or even if it's the same, it'll still drastically reduce getting bad audio from people that you can't really recover very well. And that's the thing, if everyone always recorded in 32-bit float, that would drastically cut down on audio that peaks, right? because you got to assume that not everyone's going to dial in their settings properly. If you're an editor and someone didn't have their levels set right and you have to fix that, that's something that could have been prevented by 32-bit float becoming the standard and being in everything and just being what people record in always. The other thing about having like a high gain versus a low gain setting in 24-bit recording, because people always say, oh, 32-bit float takes more hard drive space. And yes, it does. Like one 32-bit float I've seen anywhere from is 33% to 50% bigger than the same thing in 24-bit recording. And the thing is, like, if you want to guarantee no peaking and you're like shooting a wedding or something and you record that high gain version and the low gain version at the same time, you're going to have two 24-bit recordings. And you know what's bigger than 50%? 100%. So having a file size twice as much is more. So if you're shooting weddings at least, and you're going to do a low and a high in 24-bit, just do one in 32-bit and save the space. 1.5 times as big versus 2 times as big is a savings of hard drive space. So yeah, if I could, I would exclusively record 32-bit float for everything I ever do. That would be so nice. Obviously, like live streaming on Twitch, you can't really get away with that so much because everything is live and you have to set your levels to be broadcasting at a certain volume. And you can't really change it in post after the fact since live streaming has no post. It's all pre and live. But yeah, anything that is not live streaming and is not live, I want to exclusively record in 32-bit float whenever I possibly can. I'm so sick of having audio peak on me. Like, I did a video in Jamaica, my Man at Tea series, where I do tea room reviews. I was in Jamaica, and we just finished up with tea. We were looking around like getting shots of around the estate, the Good Hope Estate in Jamaica, and like they have buses that go back and forth to shuttle people back to the cruise terminal, and they run every so often, and there was one just about there, ready, leaving in just a couple of minutes. So I had to quickly get my microphone set up, quickly get my my audio recorder, and quickly let's head up here. This looks fun. And quickly get my levels dialed in. I had to clip it onto my mic, get the mic recording, get the levels dialed in. And yeah, there's these things in the way, make it annoying to ride bikes. I'm gonna have to change my battery pack. Okay, maybe I'll get off and then go over it like this. But yeah, so I had my microphone and I was rushing to get everything set up, everything dialed in, hope that my audio check was good and that my levels were okay, and quickly record an intro and an outro for the episode as one take as I possibly could before leaving forever and never coming back to that location. gonna have to change out my bike battery probably pretty soon. But yeah, if I'd have flubbed the audio levels, it would have been game over. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do anything with that. So in that situation, if I'd have known better, I probably would have set it to the lowest possible gain setting, 24-bit recording. Yeah.
Big fight. We stop for the doggy just a minute.
Okay, I gotta change my battery. Okay. But yeah, I'll continue. So, I would have been out of luck. But I known better, I could have set my level to be the lowest possible gain setting, boosted it in post, dealt with whatever imperfections may have come from that, however imperceptible people say it would have been. But yeah, if I'd have had 32-bit float, it wouldn't have been a concern. It would have been a non-issue. I would have just clipped it to my lapel in the spot I know works, hit record, done my stuff. Just quick go and know that the levels would have been good. So, yep, 32-bit float is definitely the way to go, in my opinion. Okay, I need to get this. There we go. And I don't understand people's resistance to it, honestly. Like, I know that there are established workflows, and it would be a little bit of a change to already established workflows, but it is objectively better. Yeah. It is objectively better than 24-bit float, or 24-bit. Yeah, 32-bit float is objectively better, from what I can tell, over 24-bit. And obviously 16-bit as well. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is just making it more accessible to a wider variety of people. If you can get better audio for people that otherwise would have bad audio because they don't know what they're doing, the answer is not to just go learn about it, forehead. Go to school for audio engineering. Figure out how to get perfect audio every single time. Like, yeah, there's a certain level of learning that they should do to, like, make sure they know where the lapel mic is supposed to rest and everything. But any of those little bits and pieces that can be removed from being needed to have good audio, the better. Like, it might be a small thing to just say dial in audio. Sure, yeah, that is a small thing. Another small thing is mic placement. Another small thing is, you know, just various other things. Like, there are a lot of small elements that go into audio. How did I get this on before? Yeah, a lot of small elements that go into audio. And each of those small elements require a certain level of research and learning and knowledge in order to properly utilize. So each one of those is a small little failure point. And oh my goodness, how did I get this in before? Basically, what I'm saying is if you can, like, however many of those little failure points you can remove for people, the better. Yeah, they might get their lapel mic wrong, but if their audio, or like the mic placement wrong, but if their audio doesn't peak, then it might be salvageable. Where otherwise they would get their mic placement wrong and their audio would peak because their gain is way too high. So yeah, 32-bit float is absolutely the way to go, is the future. And yeah, because cameras have gotten better and better. DSLRs and video cameras and smartphones and cell phones have better and better cameras, and people can get better and better video quality with less and less work being put into learning videography. Yeah, you need a certain level of knowledge, but the better video cameras get and the easier it is to get high quality footage. I don't think people are pointing to that and saying that's a bad idea because I already know how to shoot good video. You know, like, it's about getting to the point where everyone can shoot good video right off the bat with minimal work and knowledge, and everyone can record effective audio right off the bat with minimal knowledge. Is right along those lines. It is the way to go. Yeah, that's why I would say I am a proponent of 32-bit float. It's just one less thing for people to need to think about in order to get higher quality end results. So yeah, so the more of those little things that improve the workflow of the average person, the better. People shouldn't need to do a bunch of research in order to get good enough audio and good enough video. Good enough audio and good enough video should be the standard, like the bar, like that should be the bare minimum bar that you reach for trying. So high quality cell phone cameras and 32-bit float audio recording becoming standard, I hope, is definitely the way forward. There's a little park over there, but this goes down, and I don't know if I want to go back up. Yeah, it's close. I can just do it. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I'm really excited for my new 32-bit float lapel mic and audio recorder. Yeah, let's stay on the path. We will run once around. Yeah, if you're an audio engineer, and I got anything wrong in all of that, let me know in the comments. I certainly don't mean to like step on anyone's toes, and I'm still learning and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff I don't understand. But yeah, if I got anything fundamentally wrong, and my results will absolutely suffer because I don't understand this principle properly, let me know so I don't make the mistake. But from what I can tell, because I mean, there is a certain level of like editors, digital audio workstations, you'll still need to make sure the levels are not peaking. Recording in 32-bit float, I should say, is not the be-all and end-all of the process. Once you get it into your editor, you need to make sure that if there is any peaking, you bring down those levels so they're not peaking. And that's where normalization comes in. If someone knows enough to know that they just go in and hit normalize, that should get them where they need to be, at least as far as peaking goes. They might have a little bit quieter audio. If they just normalize the entire thing, then it'll normalize to the maximum peak. But yeah, it'll get them there. And yeah, so you can't just record in 32-bit float, pop it in, put it on your footage, and away you go. That is not exactly how it works. But if you're recording audio separate from your video, you probably know enough to know how to adjust the levels. So taking the guesswork out of recording the proper levels is good enough to then be able to have the proper levels to work with in post. Because you probably, oh, wow. This has been bouncing around for a couple hours while I've been riding. It's the first time it has collapsed. The other one would have collapsed like 2 or 3 times over. But that's interesting, good to know. Hey. So yeah, as a recording medium, I think 32-bit float is the future and needs to become the standard. And yeah, and should drastically improve the quality of audio online.
Hey, there's both number 7.
But yeah, so, because like, yeah, my Seattle bike vlog is a prime example of that. Everything is overdriven, like dramatically overdriven in it. Oh, it smells like skunk. And I couldn't recover it because I didn't record in 32-bit float because I didn't have, in fact, there were not really devices when I recorded that could record in 32-bit float. Recording in 32-bit float is a relatively new thing. And now that it's here, I'm so happy about it. Obviously, it doesn't cure depression, but yeah, I'm happy about that. Not that I have depression, but anyway, we're not going to go into depression and all that. That was a throwaway joke, and it spiraled out of control. I think it was back this way that we came up. It was like that Simpsons episode. I'm gonna level with you. This was a crank call gone bad. Or crank call. It's gone south and I'd like to bail right about now. Or something like that, yeah. Oh, no problem. What a nice young man. Anyway, I guess that's the bike vlog. I talked about VR. I haven't been streaming on Twitch for like a year. It's been over a year, I think, since my last stream. Yeah. I've been needing a break. I don't know if I'm going to come back. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I still don't know at this point. I enjoy streaming, but I don't enjoy never getting anywhere ever with all of the work that I put into everything. That's the most frustrating thing. YouTube is the stinking worst. That's why I went over to Twitch. Twitch is better, but still impossible to grow on. So it's also frustrating. But yeah, that's why I don't upload to YouTube so much. That's why I don't stream to Twitch really anymore. YouTube demonetized my channel several months ago, like maybe a year ago now at this point. And they had a new feature of a video appeal, which nobody looked, which I confirmed. Nobody looked at it, and I confirmed it by the numbers that, like, the view is sitting at one single view, and that was mine to test that it uploaded properly. Nobody looked at it, and they automatically denied my my video appeal. So worthless, just as YouTube always is. And if it was for something that is nonsensical, they say reused content. There's no reused content. It makes no sense. And they refuse to actually point out what it is they think is reused. So, the kicker is my AdSense. Like, the threshold for withdrawing money from AdSense is $100. You need at least $100 from AdSense to be able to withdraw and like deposit into your bank account to get it out of AdSense. Mine, at the time of the latest demonetization, sitting at $98.17 that I have been unable to touch. And then, since I stopped uploading, I now no longer qualify for the program. And AdSense, YouTube, Google went ahead and deactivated my AdSense account because it had been inactive due to inactivity. So now I've got 98.17 sitting in there, and it's deactivated. But some good came from that, because they said that if I close my account, I can, like, the minimum withdrawal threshold for closing an AdSense account is $10, which I absolutely reach. So all I have to do is close my AdSense account and get my 98.17 out. And then just say, screw you, YouTube! You've been a piece of crap for too long and I hate you! I'll upload on my terms, and who gives a crap? And I'm sure even then, YouTube will find some way to screw me over. But anyway, we're getting off topic. I guess that'll be the vlog. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the bike vlog, and I'll see you again at some point. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.